Hey guys, how you doing? John here. I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story about a hunting trip I went on a long time ago. Probably it was, I'm going to say 60 pounds ago. So however many years that was, it was. But here's my story. Many of you guys know I run a company called Clydesdale Frames Company. We build heavy timber structures, residential, commercial, whatever. Well, the sawmill that we buy most of our Doug fir from is in northern Idaho, way up there in the little smokestack there of Idaho. And I've gotten to know the mill owner over the years. Guys, his name's Brad. Have gotten to know him really, really, really well. 18 years ago, I think, he invited me to come elk hunting out there with a bow. And at that time, I hadn't bow hunted ever. Hadn't deer hunted since I was a kid growing up in Pennsylvania. Wasn't really, my falls were about football. They weren't about hunting. And so I went and learned how to do this, and just had a great time walking through the mountains and seeing the things that you normally don't see in the big, deep, dark forests and all of that kind of stuff. Well, years go by, and it was maybe 13 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that. I got a bear tag and an elk tag. So I was going out there for a fall hunt. It was in September, and I had both of these tags. Now, the black bears that are in Idaho in the fall are super, super hungry because they're trying to get all the calories that they can get to hibernate, for the wintertime. So it's typically a good time to go bear hunting, because if you're blessed enough or lucky enough, whatever word you want to use, to harvest a bear, the meat is going to be really good tasting because of all the calories and all the berries and all the stuff like that they're eating. That makes sense? So to do it as a combo, to do it as an elk hunt and a bear hunt, meant that part of the day I was going to hunt elk, and part of the day I was going to hunt bear. And when we hunted bear, it was kind of like deer hunting in Kansas. So you're in a tree stand or in a blind of some sort. For us, it was a tree stand, and then there's a bait station. There's a big bait barrel that's out that's got goodies on it or whatever like that attracts the bear. Now, elk hunting is not done that way with a bow. If you're elk hunting in northern Idaho in September, I call it the Hansel and Gretel method of hunting. You're essentially walking through the woods, hoping that you stumble upon elk. Now, luckily, it's the rut, and so the bull elk are a bit noisy as they're bugling and calling and fighting with other males to earn the right to mate with the cows and have their offspring carry on their genetic line. You guys know, you've seen National Geographic. So the way that you bow hunt for elk as a team, as two of you, is you have a caller and you have a shooter. So this particular morning, Brad was the caller and I was the shooter, and we had hiked up behind the mill, behind the sawmill, up into the woods, and we are up there, and there's logging roads. In northern Idaho, there's logging roads. If you're climbing up a mountain, about every 100 feet, you're going to hit a logging road. Go another 100 feet straight up, you're going to hit another logging road. Now, what I like about northern Idaho is that it's steep. Stand there, reach out with your hands and touch the ground, type of steep if you're facing uphill. But it's typically not higher than 6,000 feet elevation or so. So you don't really lose your wind. You're tired, but it isn't like Colorado where you can't get your breath. So as long as I can get oxygen to my lungs, which engages my motor, which gets my feet moving, my legs moving, I can pretty much do what I need. 60 pounds ago, pretty much do whatever I need to do. So this morning, Brad and I are hiking up behind the mill, and we're going higher, 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 and following these crisscrossing logging roads and get up there to this big area. And then Brad bugles to see if we can get a bull to answer that bugle. And sure enough, we get a bull to answer that bugle. And so typically at that point is when you start to try to put together a game plan. You try to put together some kind of strategy that puts you in a position where the caller and the shooter are in a position where when the bull comes to the caller, he runs into the shooter first. That makes sense? Now, remember, it's bow hunting, okay? So we're talking range in the big, deep, dark woods, 25 yards, maybe 30, but 25 yards is what you're trying to do to be able to put down one of those big animals. So we start to walk toward that bugle, still on the logging road, and we call again, and this bull answers us again. And we're thinking, oh, okay, maybe this guy's a little ornery, and he's gonna play this game with us. So as we're moving toward the sound, or at least in that general direction, he bugles again. He's getting closer. We're thinking, oh, he's coming to us. And so we bugle, get off the road, and start moving in more of a straight line. Now, a straight line means up and over and through and making noise and all of that kind of stuff. You're not trying to put a jungle creep on this. You're not trying to be sneaky with the bull in the sense of being quiet, because the bull expects another bull to make noise as it's coming toward him. So walking like a leopard would spook them, it wouldn't trick them. And so we're walking through the brush and making noise and raking trees and doing all those kind of things, but you're not carrying on a conversation. I mean, the deception is you're trying to pass yourself off as another elk. So as we get closer, he bugles. And the bugle is loud enough and deep enough, and it has that right kind of resonance to it, that I start thinking, man, this is a big bull, and he's fairly close, and man, I'm gonna get a shot. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I said, man, I'm gonna get a shot. And so we start to move a little bit more cautiously, and Brad is calling, and that bull is answering, and now we're kind of playing this circular dance with each other. And we get to this place where the forest clears a little bit. There's another set of logging roads that kind of works down this embankment, and I can see his cows. I can see his cows moving up the hillside, but I can't see him. But I can see the girls. And as I see the girls start moving up that hillside, he bugles, and he's like over here in this deep set of trees. And so we stay put. And Brad bugles again, and that bull just goes quiet, goes silent. Don't hear anything. The next time we hear him, I mean, we're talking 10 minutes later. There wasn't a sound. 10 minutes later, when we hear him, he's way up on this hillside, and he bugles. And we thought, man, he's moving away from us. And so Brad bugles back, and Brad says, let's just sit tight. Let's just sit tight here for a minute. So we're sitting there. I got nestled into bushes. Of course, you got your mask on, your camouflage everywhere. And we're nestled into these bushes, and we're listening. And another 10, 15 minutes go by, and that bull bugles again, and he was back down right here in front of us. Now, when I say right here in front of us, he was probably 100 yards away. Couldn't see him. He's probably 100 yards away. The last time I heard him bugle, he was maybe half a mile. I thought, okay. And so Brad starts raking the trees, trying to pull that bull in another 80 yards so that the shooter, which was me, that bull will come right into him. Well, the next time that bull makes a bugle, he was way up on half a mile away again, way up on that hill. And we played that cat and mouse game there 4 or 5 times, and I realized that he was going up, checking on his cows, checking on the girls, and then coming back down, thinking that we're a bull who's trying to move in on the girls. And so that took place about 4 or 5 times, and I started thinking to myself, man, I can outsmart this bull. And so rather than now, I was separated from Brad. I was probably 30 yards or so in front of Brad, not very far, but the forest was thick enough there that Brad couldn't see me, but I could hear him. And so without telling him what I was doing, I left. And I went to try to flank what I thought was a bull elk that was moving up and down this hill. Now, there was heavy trees on one side, but on this one side, there was enough thin spots that I thought, man, if I can hide right in there, he may be walking right by me. I was going to outsmart this bull. And so I leave the collar, and I move probably a quarter of a mile away. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And I hear that bull scream and carry on and raking and bugling and all of this kind of stuff all the way back down where the collar was, all the way back down where Brad was. And so, man, I start hauling butt. I start running back down that hill, hopping over rocks, dead trees, trying to get to where Brad is. And by the time I got there, of course, I'm out of breath, but by the time I got there, that bull was long gone. And Brad was white as a ghost, white as a ghost. And he looked at me, he said, "Where were you?" And I went, I was up there trying to flank him. He goes, never leave your collar. You never leave your collar. He goes, that bull came right to me. He was standing 5 yards in front of me, scared me to death. Where were you? That was a dead bull. Well, I left my partner. I thought maybe I could outsmart the bull, and what I realized is that I can't. I'm not smarter than that bull. Bull busted us. Busted Brad, knew he was a person now. Game's up. It's over. So we start heading back toward the mill. Long walk. I'm dejected. I got my butt kicked pretty good and got chewed out for it. I deserved it. Let's face it, I deserved it. So we stop and we eat lunch, and I said, "Hey, isn't that bear bait around here somewhere? We're pretty close to that." And he said, "Yeah, it's just kind of down over there." And I said, "Well, on our way back, it's like lunchtime." And I said, on our way back to the mill, I said, "Let's run past there and let's see what the bear bait looks like." And he said, "Okay, fair enough." And so we run through there, and there was a little bit of grain. So the bear bait barrel, if you could picture a 55-gallon drum, it's like a 35-gallon drum. Not quite as big as 55, but same kind of construction, has this steel grate on top and then has a hole on the side and the bottom of the barrel, and there'll be like grains and things like that inside there. Well, it wasn't completely eaten, but it was hammered pretty good. So went through there, checked that. I checked the tree stand, make sure ladder was good, all that kind of stuff. Down the hill we go to the mill. Brad goes into the office to check on business, and I jump in a truck and I run down to a convenience store, and I'm going to buy some stuff to put in the bait barrel. And so, man, I get loaves of bread, I get Juji fruits, I get like chocolate cupcakes. I got maple syrup. I got all kinds of stuff, sweet stuff. And I bring it up to the mill. Now, the mill, the guy who's in charge of the product getting on the truck and getting to me here at the shop, is a guy named Terry. Terry is a spitting image of Fred Flintstone and is freaky strong, just like that. So Terry grabs all of my stuff and he opens up this big Tupperware container, and it's got all of these green mashed sour apples in it. And he pours all the stuff that I bought, rips up the bread and everything, pours it all in there, and he takes this square shovel and he starts mashing it all up, making this big, huge hash. And then he takes this sauce. I can't remember what the sauce was called, but it was like molasses and something else. It was ungodly sweet smelling. And he's pouring it all over this thing, mixing. It's a sticky, gooey, nasty mess. We throw it in the back of the gator. Up the side of the hill we go, hike into where the bear bait is, and he puts all of that nasty mash stuff on top of the barrel on this steel grate, just piles it up. Throws some of the apples and stuff around there, and then he puts these bunt sticks and lights these bunt sticks. And the bunt stick was going to burn for 2 hours, and it was going to send out this really sweet smelling odor. Now, what's different about I've climbed up in a tree stand, got my arrow on the nock, have it hanging on the hook, all of that kind of stuff. So what's interesting about the wind in the mountains of Idaho versus like Kansas. In Kansas, if the wind's out of the south, it's out of the south. If it's out of the north, it's out of the north. You almost get a pretty steady direction. Now, if you're in a really dense, populated place, there's a little bit of swirl, but not really. Your scent is really moving in one direction. In the mountains, it's constant swirl. So I was watching those smoke rings, they would go this way for a while, then they would go that way for a while, and they would go that way for a while. And so I'm sitting in a stand that faces north. And about 12 yards away from me, kind of to my left and down, is this bait barrel. Now, the western sun was starting to set, and it was perfectly kind of between trees where it was beating me up pretty good. Now, I know it's September. Man, it was warm, and the bugs were biting and that kind of thing. And so I got the hat kind of over my eyes, paying attention, but not really paying attention. It's still early. The sun's going to be up for another hour or so. And so I'm kind of looking over to the east. the opposite way of the bait barrel. And I'm looking over to the east, and I'm looking at all of the sunlight coming through the trees and making shadows and different things. And then one of those shadows moved. Now I'm staring at it. I keep looking, and it moved again. And I could tell that what I was looking at wasn't the whole thing, it was just a portion of the thing. And then it moved again, and the sunlight hit it perfectly, and I could see the nose. I could see the snout of this big black bear. I thought, man, that's a big bear. Now, I can only see a little bit of its head, but when you're sitting in a tree stand in the middle of the woods and you got a sharp stick on a string, you're thinking, any bear is a big bear. And so I'm watching, and that bear kind of backed himself out of those trees and kind of came into this clearing where I was sitting, and he stands up. Now, the clearing that I was sitting from left to right, it was lower to my left than it was to my right. So it kind of moved a little bit uphill as it went to the right. Well, the bear came in from that side. He stood up. And when he stood up, I thought, my God, that bear's as big as Shaq. That's a 7-foot bear. That is a huge bear. And he's eye level with me right now, and I'm in a tree stand. And so I'm looking at him, and they've always said, well, bears don't see that good. And I thought, well, if I grab my bow right now, he's going to see that. We're eye level with each other. And he comes back down on all fours, and he turns around, and he scurries off into the woods. And I thought, well, I hadn't moved. I was still processing how big that bear was. And I thought, well, I wonder what. And then I heard the bait barrel rattle. So I looked over here, looked over to my left, and there's a bear on the bait. I mean, now this bear on the bait wasn't as big as that bear was, but the bear was on the bait. And so I'm looking at that bear, and he's grubbing. And I'm thinking, well, the other bear was bigger. Now, I don't know that I understand bear behavior well enough to bet that the big bear is going to come back and chase off this bear that's not as big. And what I didn't want to do is come back to Kansas and say, well, I could have shot a bear. I mean, we've all got those kind of stories. So the bear kind of was at this weird angle where his back was kind of to me, and he was kind of looking over his shoulder. And so I stand up, and that bear stops, and he turns around, and he looks right at me. And I freeze. I'm like a statue. I just freeze there. And then it starts eating again, and I grab my bow, and I come to full draw, and that bear looks at me again. And I freeze, and I'm just standing there looking at him. Well, now I'm trying to look at the bear, and I'm trying to picture where all the vital organs are. Okay, the heart's kind of there, the lungs are kind of there, that might be liver there. I'm trying to figure that stuff out because it's a weird angle. And I could tell that he was going to be done eating, and then what happens? Runs off, and I got no shot. So I had what I thought was a pretty decent shot. And I shoot, and I hear this thump, and that bear runs off to the north, runs off to the north. And I thought, man, I just shot a bear. I just shot a black bear. So I sit back down, and I hang my bow up on a little hook, and I'm looking at the tree, and something down at the base of the tree was like silver, was like this shiny color. And I'm looking at that, and I thought, man, I wonder if that's my broadhead. I wonder if that's my broadhead, because it would have gone all the way through. It'd be about the right angle. So I pull out my cell phone, and I called Terry, who was, at home. And I said, hey, Terry, I just shot a bear. And he said, you shot a bear already? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, it's kind of early. And I said, that's what I was thinking. And he said, all right, well, it's going to be dark about 45 minutes. He goes, so give me about 45 minutes, and I'll be up there, and I'll get you. We'll go find that bear. And I said, okay. And he goes, have you heard him rattle yet? And I said, no, I haven't. So when bears die, they often let go this big last breath, this, and it's called the death rattle. I never heard that bear rattle. Never heard that bear rattle. So I said, no, Terry, I haven't heard that bear rattle. And he said, okay. He said, he's up there. We'll get him. And I said, all right. So I wait. I wait about 30 minutes or so, and I'm thinking, it's about that time, and that thing in the bottom of the tree was bothering me. And so I grabbed my bow, and I climbed down from the tree stand, and I laid my bow on the ground over by the ladder, and I start walking over to the bait barrel to try to figure out what that shiny thing was in the bottom of that tree. And off to the north, the direction that the bear went, I heard crash, 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 crash through the brush, and I thought, my God, the bear's coming back to kill me. But it wasn't a bear. It was a bull moose and a cow moose, and they come into the clearing on the other side of the tree. Now picture this. Here's a tree with a bait barrel on it. I'm standing, man from Kansas who doesn't know what he's doing, standing on one side of the tree. Bull moose and mama moose standing on the other side of the tree. They're looking to the south. I'm looking to the west right at them thinking, now what do? My bow and arrow is sitting on the ground over by the ladder. You know, your weapon, you left your weapon on the ground. You didn't take your weapon with you. I wanted to unzip the reality of my situation and step onto the stage of all the people that are watching this now laughing and say, okay, so what do you do? So what do you do now? I'm not a moose whisperer, not claiming to be a moose whisperer, but I did the only thing I could think of to do, and I started going, whoop, 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 whoop. I'm serious. This is what I thought of to do. And the ears of the moose started moving back and forth like this, and both of them swung their big head. I mean, they're 15 feet away. They're the size of a school bus. They swing their big head over and they look at me and I'm going, whoop, 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 whoop. I'm frozen. I'm a statue man. Well, apparently that was the right thing to do, because both of the moose moved off to the south end of the clearing. So instead of being 15 feet away, now they're like 40 feet away. And they start to browse and graze and eat on the plants that are there. And I thought, well, I guess we're friends, right? You know? And so I'm still looking at them, and I look down at the shiny thing at the bottom of the tree, and then I look to the west down the trail that I had come up on. Here comes Terry. Terry's walking up this trail, and he's got a 300 Winchester mag over his shoulder. Those moose, they saw Terry, and they were gone. Gone! And I was like, well, his reputation in these woods must be far better than mine, because they didn't care one bit about what I was doing. We found the bear. The bear tasted great. Everybody survived this story, but I learned a valuable lesson on this whole hunt this day. What I learned is you don't leave your partner. You don't leave the one you went to the woods with. You don't leave your partner. And the other thing is you don't leave your weapon lying on the ground. You don't leave your weapon in a way that it doesn't help you at all. What's the point of that? Now, I'm talking to you guys, firemen, and you guys know this. You don't go into a burning structure by yourself. And you don't go into a burning structure with some type of weapon, whether it be a hose line, whether it be a heat detector, whether it be an axe, or whether it just be with the knowledge and the understanding of what you should do and what you shouldn't do. You don't go in without a weapon, and you don't go in by yourself. You just don't. You just don't. You know, our faith is just like that. Our faith is just like that. So I want to read just a little bit here from Ephesians chapter 6. This is about the armor of God. So in verse 10, it says this: finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. Against who? The schemes of the devil. Not the Democrats, not the Republicans, but the schemes of the devil. And then it says this in verse 12: for our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It's not against flesh and blood. It's against the rulers, the powers, the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. In other words, it's not about the things that we can see. It's about the things that we can't see. It's about those demon forces out there that are doing diabolical evil, that kind of stuff. In verse 13, it says, take up the full armor of God so that you will be able to resist in the evil day, having done everything to stand firm. These are the unseen spiritual forces that we are trying to stand firm against. You know, coronavirus is kind of an unseen force that is causing mayhem and harm. It's just a physical way for us to get ready for the spiritual battle that we should always have been doing. Stand firm, therefore, having girded your loins with truth. Your middle section, your gut, that part of you that's like, truth. Put on the breastplate of righteousness. Hey, guard your heart. Guard your heart with righteousness. Having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Hey, man, those things that are going to make you move, those things that are going to protect your feet so you can carry the message, man, wear peace wherever you go. In addition to all, taking up the shield of faith with which you will be able to extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. So my shield The thing that I use as the biggest defensive weapon against the attacks of the unseen enemy is my faith. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. See, the sword of the Spirit is my offensive weapon against the enemy. What is it? The Word of God. The Word of God. With all prayer and petition, pray at all times in the Spirit. And with this in view, be on the alert with all perseverance and petition for all the saints. I want to read that one more time, okay? With all prayer and petition, pray at all times in the Spirit. See, here's the thing. You don't leave your buddy. And you don't go without your weapon to fight the enemy. And we're going to fight the enemy because the enemy is going to attack us. So what is our weapon against the enemy? Well, it's prayer. It's praying in the Spirit. It's praying with the heart and the mind of God. It's wearing the armor. It's knowing that you don't leave your buddy. You don't let your buddy go alone. We're going to do life together. We're going to battle the enemy together. We're going to do it. We're going to get through it. We're going to succeed. Why? Because if God be for us, who can be against us? Who can be against us? Who is your partner? Who is the partner that you won't let go in alone? Who is the partner that you're not going to let battle the evil in life alone? For many of us, it's going to be our wives, it's going to be our kids, best friends, parents. But oftentimes our partner is the one who is willing to battle with us, is willing to put in the work, is willing to put their nose in the book, is willing to say their prayers, willing to do all of those things. Man, what's our weapon? What's our weapon? Weapon's prayer. You have the whole armory of God. What is that? I'm not sure exactly what all of that is, but I'll bet it's pretty good. The whole armory of God. How do we access that? You access that through prayer. You access that through obedience. You access that through surrender. So, pray, pray, pray. Our battle position is on our knees. Our battle position is on our knees. I love you guys. Take care. This is HFD number 61. God bless you.